everyone.
Hey.
Welcome back to Fun Facts with Ike and Cass.
Yup.
Anyway, today's fun fact. Did you know the word podcast is a portmanteau of iPod and broadcast? The more you know.
The more you know.
Did you also know if you make a podcast, you're probably not going to make money off of it unless your name is Joe Rogan.
Exactly.
But did you know that Joe Rogan took horse paste to treat COVID-19? So, honestly, you're better off not being Joe Rogan.
Yup.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome to episode... Isaac, guess what fucking episode it is?
40.
It is episode fucking 40.
Yay.
Can you believe we sat down 40 different times to talk about movies?
No way.
And still, there has not been less than one listener on any of those episodes. So at least one person has listened to every single episode, you know? Or you know, maybe not one person listens to every single episode, but...
You know, there's always one.
There's always one, exactly.
But it's not necessarily always just one out there.
Mm-mm.
You know, sometimes there's a master. Sometimes there's an apprentice.
The rule of two?
Two there are.
Yeah.
But then if you ignore the rule of two and you really take a look at the universe, there's actually a master, there's apprentice, and then there's like 50 other guys in the extended universe lore that you didn't know about coexisting at the same time. But don't worry, the Jedi also have like 300 people who are actually secretly alive during the event of the original Star Wars trilogy. So it balances out, really. A bunch of fucking people you didn't know about were just fighting it out the whole time.
I'm getting whiplash from this barrage of facts right now.
What?
Of the Star Wars lore that you're laying down.
What kind of whiplash?
Like, I'm just thinking about all the stories and all the books and all the quote-unquote canon lore that's out there that completely dismantles the rules of operations that the films rely on.
Ooh, here's something I want to talk about in regards to the extended universe.
Yeah.
Are you at all following the games that have been announced this past weekend? Okay.
I know the hype. Yeah.
The Knights of the Old Republic remake has been confirmed, and that could just about ruin me financially, because that means I need a PlayStation 5. Yeah. And getting a PlayStation 5, as you know, is no simple task.
No, it's kind of like finding the oh shit, I just ruined my own joke. I was gonna make an Indiana Jones reference with the goblet, which one was the true goblet, but I couldn't think of the right terminology. Okay. It's like finding the right goblet that won't kill you.
We need to come up with a heist plan on air right now.
Okay.
How do Casey and Isaac get a PlayStation 5? Let's just walk it through,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, first step. Probably Google to see if PlayStation 5s have been restocked.
Right. Let's pick a target Best Buy.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just not even going to Google it, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not in stock. Okay, so what's our next course of action?
Walmart, possibly?
They don't have it.
They don't have it, okay.
So Facebook Marketplace. That's a good place to search for some asshole who's bought a PlayStation 5 and is selling it for $900.
Yeah.
So here's the heist part. We message one of these buyers. He's like, I want $875 for a disc PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
You know, it's worth $500 at retail. Who cares? You know? Let's humor him.
Okay.
We meet up with said individual. But let's pick the spot, yeah?
Okay.
Where we meet, but let's not say anywhere real in Arkansas that could dox us, even though we've doxed ourselves plenty of times.
Yeah. Let's meet behind the old gas station on 5th. Yup.
Yes, that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when we get there, and he's got the PlayStation 5 in his hand, you know, we'll be like, hey, what's your Cash App? We'll get that sent over right now. And he'll be all like, my Cash App is scumbag 332, and then what are we doing?
We are taking the PlayStation, right? He's handing the PlayStation off, right? This is where we need a third person.
Okay.
So we have a person come in a vehicle and like screeching halt, pull up right beside us. He runs with the PlayStation. Whoever he handed the PlayStation to runs to the car to get in. They get away.
Okay, here's the genius of it. We'll be like, what the hell just happened? Who was that guy?
Exactly.
Why did you hire that guy to take that PlayStation? You're running a scam where you're having some guy in a car come and steal the PlayStations you're selling to people. You give us $875 right now because that's what we paid for. Exactly. And then he gives it to us, and then
we walk away with cash and a new PS5.
Yeah, but hold on. We got to deal with this third guy.
We
don't want any loose ends.
No loose ends.
We don't want... Here's the thing.
You're right.
He probably wants a PlayStation 5.
Okay.
I say we put him in his room and we lock the door.
Okay. I agree. Good plan.
Casey.
Yeah.
There's only one PlayStation 5.
So I guess I'd give it to you.
Yeah.
Because I don't need the PlayStation 5.
I mean, you're so selfless. Wait, hey, I don't need the PlayStation 5 either.
Let's
Do you
just
want
burn
it?
No, I'm good. I don't need it.
You don't need it?
No.
Do you think that guy...
We could sell it for $900.
Yeah, let's go on Facebook Marketplace. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. Right. We have a plan. We're going to get in. We're going to get out.
We're good. All right. See y'all next week.
But also coming out for PlayStation 5 as an exclusive is this really great looking Wolverine game. And why I say it looks great is like there's actually nothing out about it yet, but Insomniac Games made Spider-Man, which was a fucking masterpiece. And on top of that, I was worried for a second, Wolverine means no Spider-Man 2, same day, trailer for Spider-Man 2. So, we are doing so good.
We are getting all the good games. There's a guy I've been watching for a long time called Mr. Matty Plays. And I got into him when I was getting into Fallout back in 2013. Oh. And his channel was blowing up as I was watching him. And now he covers like Xbox game news. And he's like one of his biggest wishes in his entire life is for them to remake Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic because he's a huge Star Wars fan. And that's one of his favorite games. And when they announced it, he was like going off on Twitter and everything. So that's how I heard about it. I was like, okay, so they're remaking KOTOR. And then I saw they, announced Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, and I was like, holy shit, bro. This is a packed year next year, I guess. Or one of them's coming out in 2023, but...
Big day for PlayStation 5 owners. All three of them, all three guys are going to be really excited about it.
Just get their shit together for real.
Why is it so hard to buy, PlayStation? And I don't know if this is still a problem with the Xbox too, because last year it was...
The Xboxes you can pretty much find anywhere now. I think it has to do mainly with the pandemic, with all technology, because the new graphics cards and stuff were really hard to find. It's something to do with COVID and manufacturing. I'm not entirely sure why it had such a big impact on the tech side of like the industry, but it did, and PS5 is getting hit pretty fucking hard.
It did seem like tech was doing really well though throughout the pandemic, but I guess like developing tech, not so much, just like stuff that was already out there.
Man, scalpers came out of the woodwork, bro.
Dude,
ridiculous.
How did you get a hold of toilet paper last year? I feel like that's a fun story.
There was one roll left at Sam's Club, and at Walmart, but it was the really, really shitty one-ply toilet paper, and it was like a 6-pack, so we just bought... And that was really bad, because we actually had no toilet paper. Like, we were out, and we were like, we need to find some fucking toilet paper, and we went to 4 different stores, and finally, I think one of the Walmarts here had toilet paper, but it was like really shitty, and there was like one left on the shelf, so we grabbed it. It's just really bad. It was that was probably the thing. I've never been more angry in my entire life than seeing that shit unfold. Hey, that's kind of a pun there.
Whoa, hey.
But yeah. Speaking of shit, did you watch any movies?
No. Well, I did. I watched one yesterday. I don't feel like we'll have an extended... Well, actually, I kind of want to have a little discussion won't be spoilers. It's Shang-Chi. We'll get there. But, Casey, what have you watched in the meantime?
So, I watched a couple doodads. First movie that I watched that was really interesting was Freaks. Old 30s film, pre-code, about circus people. Like, what they would call them. It's an outdated term, but circus freaks is where the movie got its name. Surprisingly, very endearing movie. Very pro. It's like anti. They were not making fun of the people of the circus people with all the disabilities and stuff like that. They're actually showcasing them in a pretty heartwarming way, and it's like a drama / revenge plot. Really interesting film. It's been banned in the UK though. Is banned for like 60 years in the UK for being too horrific. And if you look at the genre, it says it's a horror movie.
But it's not actually a horror movie, right?
No, it's some of the imagery, the way the director framed some of the so-called freaks of the movie. Like at the end, they like attack this person, who well-deserved attack. He's tried to kill one of them, so they were getting revenge on him. And the way they were attacking him was actually kind of horrifying, like the way it was framed and everything. The movie was originally an hour and a half long, but the studio said it was disgusting. Seeing all these disabled people on screen, and so they were like, this is ridiculous, this is nasty, let's cut this down. And they made it, it's that one right there.
You
got and so they cut it down to like an hour, and like barely an hour and 10 minutes, and that was what they released in theaters. And a lot of people didn't like it, but critics have revered it for being not prejudice really against the actors and everybody that were because they used all the people that were in it, or nearly all the people that were in it, actually had there was a guy with like no limbs whatsoever, and he could like light a cigarette using only his mouth, which is really cool.
That is really cool. This movie looks really interesting.
Oh yeah, I would highly recommend watching it. It's like really funny. As well, it's like, I would say it's like a drama comedy.
Wow, the original dramedy.
Yeah, the original dramedy. But yeah, that was interesting. I really liked that one. And then I watched. This isn't interesting. I don't know if anybody's heard of this, but apparently it's sort of like a cult classic. So there may be some people out there that's heard of it. You might have heard of it. It's called Willard. It is about so there's two versions. There's a 60s or 70s version, and then there's the 2003 version. And it's about this guy who his father, he works for this company that his father once worked for, but his father's dead, and he lives with his, ailing, very ill mother, and he's basically a Joker type character, constantly shit on and stuff, but he makes friends with rats, and by the end of the movie, he has like an army of rats that like listen to him and his commands, and he gets revenge on some people, and it's very campy, kind of weird. I watched the 70s version. I want to watch the 2003 version because that one has higher ratings than the original. But the movie's very 70s. It's kind of, they don't label it as a horror movie, but you can kind of, it's like a creature feature in hiding, sort of. Really kind of funny. I don't know. It's just something. Just put it on. Just watch it. It's interesting. Definitely not the most amazing movie I've ever seen, but it was I had a fun time with it. It was funny seeing him control rats by talking to them and stuff. And then earlier I watched a really interesting Vice documentary called Too Soon, Jokes After 9/11, comedy after 9/11. That one was really interesting because they basically went through the whole, like up until almost present day. They explored, about 6-7 years after the event, and about like just not even a week after all the comedy shows that were coming back, there was a bunch of like think pieces and acts coming out about like, can we ever laugh again? Like, when is it safe to resume normal life? Because it was, a huge tragedy, and it just explored like what some comedians did, and easing back into it. There were some really good jokes. They figured out where to target their comedy, not make fun of the people that died in the event itself, but like one of the things they did was make fun of the terrorists and like point anger at them, and then stuff like that. But in the weeks after, there was a roast of Hugh Hefner and Gilbert Gottfried. He was the first one to make a joke that was like super, like Oh God, that's really bad.
It's very dark.
Yeah, very dark. He was the first one to make He made a joke about getting on a plane to go to LA or something, but they had to stop at the Empire State Building first.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh no. But yeah, so he kind of spearheaded that, but then it like snowballed where like comedians were talking when like some comedians made jokes and they inadvertently caused a lot of the Islamophobia because they were making jokes about the terrorists and people took that as, brown people and people like Muslims and stuff like that. But then right after that, there was an uprising of Middle Eastern comedians who were like Americans that started a tour. They called it the Axis of Evil tour, parodying George Bush's comments. Yeah. And it like was super popular.
Really?
So they were telling it from like their perspective. They were making jokes about, like their culture being like, like they made jokes about them being terrorists and whatnot. It was really funny, and they kind of dispelled some of the, the hate that they were getting. And then later, obviously, now it's almost 20 years after, or at least even 6 or 7 years after, we can talk about it. And they even like. What the Bush administration did by going to war in Iraq, they started making fun of that. That's how they started the 9/11 jokes. They basically, kept like mutating and transforming until where we are today, where we have Pete Davidson, whose father died in it, just blatantly making like really
my dad's fucking dead.
Yeah, exactly, like those kind of jokes. It was really interesting though. It was it's on YouTube if you want to go check it out. Like. Yeah. Really interesting. Some of the they show you a bunch of the jokes that were made in just the immediate days after, and you can kind of see how it like transforms later on.
Well, that's something that's always been interesting to me. Is like, I do feel like comedy in 9/11, the censorship of a lot of jokes, and it's too soon or you're not a patriot. I feel like 9/11 was the ultimate tool in justifying an unrelated invasion, it wasn't even about getting bin Laden.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cool that jokes about the terrorists started happening, but I definitely do think that helped that the Bush administration move in.
Definitely.
Any humor that was coming out, it was with the agenda of what we were trying to get done. And I mean, I guess that's what's so crazy is 20 years later. We're just leaving Afghanistan, which is what we invaded right after 9/11, and we didn't do shit in Afghanistan, and it's like, why did we go? What was the point of it all? Were we patriots or were we not? I mean, what was so patriotic about anything that happened? And I think that's the whole conundrum of 9/11 is it was a tragedy that was taken advantage of. I actually was sent a tweet from it was a excerpt from Hunter S. Thompson, and he was surprisingly predictive with this little sentiment. This was basically right after 9/11, the week after 9/11. He wrote this: "We are at war now, according to President Bush, and I take him at his word. He also says that this war might last for a very long time. Generals and military scholars will tell you that 8 or 10 years is actually not such a long time in the span of human history, which is no doubt true, but history also tells us that 10 years of martial law in a wartime economy are going to feel like a lifetime to people who are in their 20s today. The poor bastards of what will forever be known as Generation Z are doomed to be the first generation of Americans who will grow up with a lower standard of living than their parents enjoyed. That is extremely heavy news, and it will take a while for it to sink in. The 22 babies born in New York City while the World Trade Center burned will never know what they missed. The last half of the 20th century will seem like a wild party for rich kids compared to what's coming now. The party's over, folks." But I mean, god damn, he had it nailed to the point that we, babies being born that week, we're still feeling the consequences of 9/11. Our generation's it's broke as shit unless you were born to relatively rich parents or and enjoy the privileges of being white. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's crazy. 20 years out to examine the whole event and the culture around it. 9/11 despite how many jokes we can make about it, I mean, I guess it is probably the most important event in recent American history, but unfortunately, I think it's one of the most harmful events for being important, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
I hate that it's really our administration's fault for making, like, 9/11 could be this thing where we look upon it with, you know, like, obviously sadness, like, it is a tragedy. So many people died. It was horrible. It was meaningless violence. But now it's been turned in. It was basically the tipping point for us to this 20-year fucking war that has just fucked everything.
Yeah.
For worse. And so, like, you can't help but look on it with kind of like disdain, like, oh God, it's that fucking day again. So,
I mean, and it makes me think, like, the people who died in 9/11, you know, like, if even just one person had survived that tragedy and had to look at what it did to the world today, I mean, like, I cannot imagine, like, how they would feel about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess that's always going to be the terribly sad thing about this event is, like, despite all the conspiracy theories and despite all the speculation and, like, what happened and why it happened, you know, we'll never fully know because the people who could tell us, like, the most details are all deceased, you know, and the guy who orchestrated the whole thing, deceased. The administration that, you know, punished the perpetrators, I mean, they're all on their way out. Donald Rumsfeld died this year, and I mean, that's his legacy, and this is a political podcast. Anyway, did you watch anything else?
No, that's about it for me.
Nice. I'm trying to think if I watched anything, like, fun. Oh, we rewatched Breaking Bad season 1 this last week.
You were talking about that the other day, yeah.
What? I mean, just the best television show of all time. I mean, there's not really any flaws. Like, I kind of expected season 1 to be, like, worse in this rewatch, but, like, honestly, it's fucking great. Yeah. You can tell, though, that it is weaker than the other seasons because of the writer's strike that was happening at that time.
For sure.
But also, the writer's strike, an amazing, like, tool in making Breaking Bad and what it is today. Do you know what was supposed to happen in the latter half of season 1? Yeah. So, like, Jesse's death would have been a terrible misstep, and then Walt Jr. was supposed to get killed by some, like, Saw-like contraption, and Walter was going to be, like, full-on evil by the end of season 1. Just, like, it sounds really bad. I'm sure it would have been better with the context of whatever the fuck happened in the show, but, like, what they ended up doing instead is way better than that. Yeah.
Interestingly, on the other side of the spectrum, the writer's strike absolutely destroyed a series that I loved up until the last season or two, which was Lost.
Oh, yeah.
The writer's strike happened right in the middle of Lost.
Season 4 is, like, this weird 13-episode run, and they fucked a lot of shit up.
Because I feel like Lost is, like, peak what television is, like, supposed to be. Every episode is a cliffhanger. There's a million fucking questions, a million reasons you should keep watching the show, right? And then at the, like, just that strike in the middle was everybody's idea was, like, you know, torn, you know, in two, and then they had to gather up the pieces and jigsaw it back together, and we're left with a fucking Frankenstein of a monster at the end, which that show could have been on Breaking Bad levels.
Yeah.
Had it, you know, it's run its, like, actual due course and not had any interruptions or interferences like that. And been maybe 2 seasons shorter, but
yeah, I think the flashbacks especially were getting a little bit much by that season anyway. You know, it's like what more is there to learn about these characters? And then they started, like, flashing sideways.
The sideways flashes still make no damn sense, and I don't care if you say you get it, you don't. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's purgatory or something, right? Or that's what they go with in the end.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it good. That answer doesn't, like, clarify anything. You know, it's kind of lazy.
It's so lazy.
It's so fucking lazy.
So bad.
And I also hate sorry, we just jumped into last season Lost spoilers, but you know what? You don't need to watch Lost anymore. I mean, you can watch, like, seasons 1 through 3 and have a good time.
Those are the best.
Fill in the blanks with your imagination.
Yep.
But, like, also how, like, black and white it got towards the end, where there's literally, you know, the man in black and, like, Jacob, and it's like, oh, it's just a battle of good versus evil. It's so boring, you know? Like, I liked in the other seasons, the conflicts were, like, within the group, or, like, even when they were fighting the others, like, the others were, like, people with interesting, like, viewpoints and, like, warped psychology from having been on the island. Like, the character of Ben on that show is really interesting to me still.
Yeah.
I don't remember that actor's name, but he's really great.
I don't either.
The one with the glasses, you know who I'm talking about,
I know,
right?
I know, yeah. I don't remember, but I do remember that my senior quote was from John Locke.
Really?
Yeah.
I loved John Locke.
I love Locke, that character so much, but he was bastardized in the last season.
Yeah, my mom hated John Locke, and then by the time the last season rolled around, I was like, yeah, I don't get what I liked about him, but he was so good. He
was an amazing character, especially his episode in season 1 where you figured out he literally couldn't walk before this, and you're like, okay, now we're getting into like sci-fi elements of the show, and it got really freaking interesting. But
you know what is kind of an interesting show on right now that I totally blew off after its first episode? What If?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Have you watched any of that?
I watched the first episode.
Yeah, that one
is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not the actor's fault, and also I feel like a lot of people might feel like, oh, people don't like that episode because they put like Peggy Carter in Captain America's role. That's not what's wrong with it. It's just like too much a riff on the first Avenger, and there's not a lot of new ideas, and it's not very good. Like, I'm just not gonna lie, it was very underwhelming, which is why it was surprising. Like, starting with the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode, like, the show got really fun, and it was really interesting to see the concept like fully fleshed out. And then episode 3 is like a fun like whodunit like murder thing. It's really great. Episode 4 is just like heartbreaking. And episode 5 wasn't all that good again, but like I feel like people online are gonna disagree about that because it has like zombies in it. It was interesting that they did what they did in that episode though. Like I want to say, like, what if it does have any lasting consequences on the greater universe as a whole, that'll be cool. But I just like how balls to the wall they can get with some of these concepts, and they can just, well, and I don't want to spoil anything, but they can kill whoever the fuck they want in an episode, and that's great. Like, there are real stakes that are missing from the actual Marvel movies themselves. Like, I'm having more fun watching What If than I did watching like Black Widow or like the past couple like non-Avengers related movies like Captain Marvel or I'm trying to remember the last bullshit that came out. It's been
Spider-Man
so long.
Far From Home.
Spider-Man Far From Home, yeah, that one wasn't very good either.
Yeah.
They just haven't had a spectacular run. No, ooh. I will say, in terms of solo movies, we do have a bit of a turnaround with Shang-Chi. It's good. It's good. It is Marvel. But it's good. It's very good Marvel in the fact that it has a lot of standalone elements and doesn't really depend on the larger universe as a whole. There is still moments that'll make you kind of groan or maybe excite you depending on what you want when you go to these movies. I personally was like, can we focus on, you know, Simu Liu and Awkwafina, because I really like the two characters at the center of this movie, and I love the fighting, especially.
Yeah, I heard it's really good.
And the villain, really great in this movie, like probably the best villain since Killmonger or Thanos. He's fantastic. Tony Leung, I think is how you say his name. He's been in a lot of, you know, Chinese, like overseas movies, and this is like his first Hollywood movie, and he kills it. I love all of the actors they've chosen for this movie. I think that the only thing I would point to as something that holds this movie back is it's got that Marvel like third act CGI nonsense and excess. Like, I think I saw a review on Letterboxd that was like, this movie would be 3 times better if it cost half as much. And I actually wanted to ask you, you know, do you think that we would get movies that have a lot more heart and soul, or, you know, just are better made if a lot of these, you know, big budget superhero movies especially had like maybe a $10 million budget instead of like $100 million budget.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I'm a firm believer, because I'm sure Raimi and Nolan didn't have that big of budgets for their first movies, and they're considered some of the best superhero films ever. And you can just see that the budget for Batman Begins wasn't, insanely huge, just from how he shot it. I am curious though. Are you looking up the?
Oh shit!
What?
$150 million to make
you
Batman Begins.
You are kidding me!
I bet you Batman is one that they. But the way Nolan shoots Dark Knight and Batman Begins, like those movies, I bet you Spider-Man's expensive too because they went all in on CGI for the time. Let's see.
That's true.
Let's see. What's the budget for Spider-Man 2?
Well, wait. Oh, this is okay. So,
the box office is quite high.
oh, it was huge. Hold on, Raimi.
Budget.
There we go. I just couldn't think of the word. 139 million.
So
okay. So I was wrong. I thought they had smaller budgets, but I guess. Can you think of a superhero movie that had a small budget?
Okay. So obviously the first. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at Shang-Chi's budget, which was $200 million. So, it is higher these days. Like, the cost to make these movies has definitely got higher. But, oh my God. What? Dude, Spider-Man 2 cost $200 million to make. Spider-Man 3
was $250 million. And The Amazing Spider-Man was $230 million.
The only thing that comes to my head right now is, like, those... kind of grittier movies like Super by James Gunn, or like yeah, I don't know if Sin City was all that expensive.
These are the top 10 low budget superhero movies. Super is what is number
Super.
10.
So James Gunn.
Yeah,
obviously.
and then Griff the Invincible.
I feel like Kick-Ass didn't have a super high budget, and that's a pretty great movie.
Okay, you cannot count Mystery Man.
Oh, there's this list that we are looking at right now that. We'll tell you the title. It's 10 low-budget superhero movies that are actually better than the big screen, and then they have Mystery Men at number 7.
I love bad, fun movies just as much as the next person,
but you do not lie to yourself.
And then they got Defender on here, like yeah, I like Defender, but come on, I'm
Toxic Avenger. It's a trauma classic.
Oh my God. The Invisible Boy. Fast Color was really good.
I have not seen Fast Color.
You need to watch. This is an interesting movie. Fast Color.
Oh, okay.
Very, very, very good.
Well, shit, it looks very cool.
Super Bob and Turbo Kid. All right, so this doesn't give us any. These are
those are some. Well, now that you ask me though, I'm like, I don't know too many low budget superhero movies, and I think like. Maybe it's just the way the genre's gone is like we're looking for more consistency across movies rather than like stylistic tone in each movie. And I think, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know why there's such a disconnect because, Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, like the Raimi Spider-Man movies definitely use a lot of CGI for their time too. But those climaxes don't feel quite as excessive until Spider-Man 3, maybe, But, like, every Marvel movie feels like there's, like, major explosions and, like, a disconnect from the plot. That's what pissed me off about Shang-Chi is, like, you have a really good personal conflict at the center of the movie. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but, like, in the third act, things kind of escalate and change. And it's like, this isn't as good. And also, this looks expensive. This looks like this is where most of your budget went. Mm-hmm. But this is the worst part of your movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe why I think, if they only had like $50 million to make Shang-Chi, you probably have a few more no-names, actually. You probably have more emphasis on fight choreography. And I will say, the fight choreography is great in Shang-Chi, but it would have been maybe even cool to like see less CGI in those scenes and just have like, a pretty brutal like martial arts film. I think that's the thing is it just feels more real whenever it's lower budget, it feels down to earth, and that's something superhero movies just don't do anymore. They don't come back to us.
Yeah, for sure. Because even thinking about it, now, I can't think of the last Marvel movie that had like a down to earth in the past that had like, didn't have like this huge climactic thing. Like I feel like even The Dark Knight, it's like that movie had a huge budget. It was like, widely considered one of the best superhero movies. And I mean, Batman didn't fight 100 guys in the city while a bunch of buildings were exploding and shit. Like I just feel like that's the biggest thing that threw me off about Black Panther is like I recently rewatched it.
Oh, the third act's like terrible.
It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. Like the action in the rest of the movie, even though it is big and grand, I mean, Wakanda is a huge, city, country, I guess, and they want to show that off, but like the third act is in an open field, and there's so much CGI.
The rhinos is the worst part for me. Like that's what I instantly think of when I think of Black Panther's like ending, or anytime someone criticizes it, it's like, oh, Black Panther isn't as good as people say, and I'm like, well. Yeah, I mean, if you ignore the last third, I disagree with you. Right. But if we acknowledge that shit happened, that, like, there were people riding rhinos and, like, Wakandan, like, Gungan force fields, essentially. Like, I'll call it, like, George Lucasism, because that's essentially what it is. It's like, in your third act, you need this, like, crazy CGI like battle to happen, because that's been the precedent since Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace, I would say, not the best movie ever. Not even all that great.
It's alright, it's mediocre.
But like the best part of Phantom Menace is juxtaposed with easily one of the worst sequences, which is just that really solid fight choreography with Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Jar Jar has to get the blue ball over to the tank, and then Anakin's got to blow up the big old CGI space station, and then that'll stop all the droids from beating up all the fake CGI Gungans. And I'm telling you,
just mentioning it makes me want to die.
But I am telling you, these Marvel movies, they get a lot more respect than the prequel trilogy of Star Wars. And, there's a lot of superhero movies, too. Like, all of the DCEU movies are pretty much guilty of this, too. This third act CGI excess. And it's hardly ever fun. It feels like you should be having fun because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of silly concepts. But it's not. Yeah. I would... Okay... stop me if I'm going too far and I'm about to commit blasphemy. Avengers Infinity War is a great get-together of heroes and fun interaction until they bring in all that bullshit at the end. Like, I even hate Avengers Infinity War's third act until the snap. Like, when it's the battle with those random, like, xenomorph rip-offs, that is not at all exciting to me. And it feels very impersonal, and it's hard to be invested. There's there's moments that are designed for your first watch that you get hyped for. Like, oh, Thor's back, and he's got his shit. But that's it. It has such little rewatchability in it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I kind of feel that way about Infinity War, but I feel like Endgame's final climax is the most fun I've had in, like, a third act Marvel movie.
Oh, Endgame... So, here's what I think is different about the two, is, like, Endgame bothered to make it, like, personal. Yeah. I don't know. And also, like... Well, maybe they didn't, though, because it's... Endgame got away with having the same third act as Infinity War, essentially. They were like, let's just do the rematch.
I just think it was better.
It was better. But I don't know how to explain why it was better, because...
I think it was... Okay, obviously there's a lot of fan service. There's a lot of fan moments, like, Captain America picking up Thor's hammer and everything like that. But there's also just a lot of, like... In Endgame, there's a lot of callbacks to, and I guess you could put it under like fan servicey moments, but I think it falls under a whole new thing where it's like you're basically bringing things full circle, like Captain America picking up, Thor's hammer. That's a character moment. And, like, everybody's experiencing character moments within this final battle.
I'm going to coin a term right now.
Okay.
Timon and Pumbaa effect.
Timon and Pumbaa effect.
In The Lion King.
Yes.
There's the big battle going on.
Yes.
And then the hyenas happen upon Pumbaa. And earlier in the movie, there's been some disrespect. And also, there's a chance for pop culture reference here. Instead of, like, Mr. Tibbs, they call me Mr. Pig. And you get hype because Pumbaa and Timon are beating up the hyenas.
Yeah.
That is the effect they're going for in all of these superhero movies. It's like, callback. Character that hasn't been around for a little bit has re-entered dramatically to beat up bad guy B. They're not beating up the main bad guy, though, so it's just pointless fun. Because, you don't get anything out of those hyenas getting beat up, really.
Right.
But when Simba beats up Scar on top of that, the culmination is, like, a good time was had by all. Mm-hmm. And Endgame, same thing, it's like, Parker, you've got something for me? And, like, bam, let's pass Captain Marvel the Infinity Gauntlet. She can't win yet because she's not one of the main characters in Endgame. You got to give it to, like, Iron Man or someone. Yeah. And then, boom, Iron Man beats the big bad, and we get to move on. Lion King, Endgame, every superhero movie ever, maybe?
Maybe.
Oh, because, the Timon and Pumbaa effect is in The Dark Knight Rises, too. Catwoman rolls up, blasts bang, and goes, that rule about guns, I didn't like it too much. That would have been fucking hilarious if in, like, The Dark Knight, that part where Batman's fighting the Joker and he's got the dogs and stuff, and, like... I'm trying to think of a ridiculous...
Oh, God, no.
But, like... I want it... I can't decide. Should it be like Alfred or should it be Rachel? Rachel shows up and be like, Bruce, I told you that Batman couldn't be here for the city, but I'll be here for Batman. And she, like, blasts the Joker.
Or Alfred comes in with a fucking flamethrower and he's like, we burned down the forest.
I've told you, Mr. Wayne, some people just want to watch the world burn.
He fucking kills Joker by incinerating him. Somebody animate it. We need it.
Timon and Pumbaa effect.
Timon and Pumbaa effect. I like that. It's true though.
They do go for that in the original Batman Begins, because, like, the way he beats Liam Neeson is just a joke. He's like, "Hey, homie, you should be, like, aware of your surroundings," and he's like, "What?" And it's like, or like, "I'm not gonna kill you. This train is." Goodbye.
That's the quote.
Goodbye. Almost quotes is back to Mind Over Movies.
Yes, almost quotes. I'm gonna have to start making compilations.
Yeah. Man.
Fuck. What were we even gonna talk about today?
Well, like, that was just a fun little mini topic. Is like, should movies be less expensive?
Yeah, they should.
I guess so.
Well, okay, so to add on as like an afterthought, the reason they're getting so expensive is because the technology we're using to make them is fucking expensive. You know how they made The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
They're doing that with a bunch of, like, Disney's doing that with a bunch of movies, and like I can't remember what it was. There was a Black Widow. There was so much CGI to the point that when Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh were sitting in the bar talking in the first half of the movie,
that's CGI.
Completely green screen and CGI. Yes. So it's like, would it have been less expensive to just shoot this in a bar? Yes. But it's the fact that I think Marvel especially has to hide their secrets, so we can experience all these things in the theater. Yeah. And really, the only time that paid off for me was Infinity War and Endgame, I think. But what they're trying to do it with, like, every single release they have, they're like, no spoilers. So I think by shooting in a studio in a green screen, that eliminates a lot of the, the paparazzi or whoever getting photos and leaking stuff. That may be why they're doing it, but I don't know.
I will say, like, it's hard to go shoot a movie, like, on location. You know, like, that rugged charm of, like, the first Star Wars movie comes from the fact that making it was an absolute, like, fucking horror. For everyone involved. Like, George Lucas went to Tunisia and he came out a different person because it was hell. You know, it was too hot, and, like, the movie was saved in, like, editing. And nowadays, I mean, especially with the Marvel movies, they have every beat pre-planned before the movie even enters production. Like, you've heard, or I think we've talked about the fact that they, like, pre-render the fight scenes like years in advance. Like, in 2016, they had the Avengers Infinity War fight scene with Thanos pre-rendered so that those VFX could be ready to go, and you just have to film the rest of the movie around that. And that's insane. Like,
that's ridiculous.
I think that's what maybe is the hard part about, you know, these expensive movies is we're seeing a lot of, or we're seeing, like, a very low percentage of directors and filmmakers with access to those tools with no experience in using them, and so they're often studio-led movies. Or I'm gonna bash this movie, The Irishman. I think that's complete excess. Like, I think, you know, that's a cool way to keep De Niro and Pesci and Al Pacino, like, in the movie all throughout the runtime. But, like, I'm gonna throw it back to my boy Mikey Flanagan again. Like, just maybe hire some younger goddamn actors who, like, resemble the actors that they're playing the younger counterpart of. You know?
I think what it is honestly, with, in the specific case of The Irishman, Martin Scorsese is just like, man, he's getting old. Okay?
Yeah.
And so is Pesci, De Niro, and Pacino. And I think he wanted to give them, you know, like, another film, like, back in the old days. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, he's like, I want you to act. You know, we can do this de-aging stuff. And I also think Martin Scorsese, while he has his criticisms of how the way cinema is working nowadays, I still think he wants to try new things. So I think that technology being available to him maybe just got some gears turning in his head. Like, you know, I want to try that. That'd be cool. But then again, it's completely excessive in that movie. Like, it's kind of ridiculous how the links that they went through just to do that.
It's just so hard to not have this kind of movie, though, these days. I mean, as an indie director, you essentially, you know, have to self-produce, or you have to find someone who's crazy enough to give you creative vision. And even then, if they've got a lot of money behind the project, they might want to throw a lot of extra shit in. And I think that's what's so frustrating, is, like, there's less new voices that are coming up. Like, I don't remember the last time I went to the theater and I found a really cool debut feature from a new director who wasn't already previously established in the studio life, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like What?
Sorry, I was about to say, I remember the last one it was Hereditary.
Oh, yeah. Ari Aster is probably the last one. Mm-hmm. And he was welcomed very quickly into we'll give you a lot of money to make what you wanted to make. Because he's very good at that.
Right.
And I think Jordan Peele is also good. Jordan Peele
as well.
But I think Jordan Peele, well, actually, you know what? That was a risk for whoever produced Get Out Blumhouse. Because,
that was
this is what's great. Yeah, low budget movie, a comedy star mostly, and you're gonna let him direct a serious horror movie and write it. You know, that was a lot of faith put up there.
Yeah.
And I mean, people who weren't quite household names, but who have been around in leading roles. I mean, like, Daniel Kaluuya had been in, like, Black Mirror before and a couple other things, but I mean, he wasn't, like,
he wasn't
as famous as he was.
And he was from the UK.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I mean, same with Bradley Whitford. He really blew up after Get Out, too. Mm-hmm. And he's been around forever also. I mean, in West Wing and Cabin in the Woods. But, like, and even, like, Catherine fucking Keener. She's in there, and she had kind of a career revival.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, is it's Pulp Fiction effect. You know, like, Tarantino didn't have the biggest budget in the world to make Pulp Fiction, but, you know, real talent came to that movie anyway, and it revitalized, like, indie movies. It revitalized the career of John Travolta. It invigorated the career of Samuel L. Jackson. You know, it made people.
Right. Have you seen the clip of what Quentin Tarantino said to John Travolta on Pulp Fiction?
No.
He was like, when John Travolta took the role, that was when he was super down, and he was like, I don't know why the fuck I'm in this movie. And Quentin Tarantino like pulled him to the side, was like, what are you fucking doing? Because I think they did a take or something, and then he's like, you were like the man. Like, I grew up watching your shit. He's like, you're an amazing actor, and you've just got to, like, get over yourself and do this for me. He's like, he basically, you know, just, pummeled him, but at the same time gave him a bunch of confidence, and, like, you know, now it's, like, Travolta's big, you know, wahoo. They're like, Travolta in Pulp Fiction is fucking amazing. It's because Quentin Tarantino basically, you know, yelled at him, and it was like, you're an amazing actor. Like, stop, you know, moping. Crazy stuff.
That is a interesting topic we could get into sometime. I mean, the Shelley Duvall effect and the mean director trying to get it. Do you not know about how mean Stanley Kubrick?
Horrible tragedy though. Of what he did to her.
Well, have you seen like modern photos of Shelley Duvall?
Yeah.
She looks rough, and also she is going through it. Like, she's very mentally ill these days. I don't know if it's linked to like previous treatment.
I think she said that it all goes back to that movie. That's why she never acted again.
Oh my gosh.
Was The Shining, which, I mean, that is such like a source of how do I say this, like, I love The Shining, you know, we love these movies, and then you look at like what happened to an actual human being because of the movie. Same thing with fucking one of my favorite directors, Bernardo Bertolucci. He worked with guy who played first Superman.
Christopher Reeve?
No, the guy who played Superman. Or what? The Godfather. What is his name?
Oh, Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. Him and Marlon Brando coordinated a rape scene with an actress that she didn't know was going to happen. Horrid. Absolutely horrible. But, you know, Bertolucci is known for some very fantastic films. But it's just like, man, what the fuck?
Yeah, this whole, like, sacrifice. And that's something that's really... that is something that's really good about studio culture, is, like, people can't get away with that shit. You know, you can't have...
Not anymore.
Yeah, you can't, like, fucking mentally traumatize someone on set, because there's actually, like, HR departments and scandals and accountability. Like, something that is good about our modern culture in general is we hold people accountable for being shitty. And this is something that, hopefully, I like to think, like, people would have been held accountable for and actually suffered consequences for back in like the 80s and 70s. Like, if it had come out that, you know, Kubrick did that shit to Shelley Duvall, and, you know, it was reported widely, like, I feel like people might have like held him accountable. Well, I don't know, I guess people knew back then, right?
Maybe.
Like,
I'm sure in the film circle people knew, like in the industry, but to the general public, you know, that's what's different now, is the public knows about it instead of this industry circle.
Yeah.
I think that's the main difference.
And it's crazy how long that went on, where what the industry knew and what the public knew was segregated, because nowadays, you know, it's all one and the same, and that's why, you know, shitheads, you like really get what's coming to them. But like, to hear for like how long people knew about Weinstein and like Spacey, and there's even like Bill Cosby jokes like going way back to like the 2000s, like, what the fuck? Like, what? How did we let this happen? Wow, yeah, that seems like a whole another episode. Do we have anything lighthearted?
We've just been teasing future episodes.
This episode is just the teaser for future episodes because Casey hasn't watched Shang-Chi yet, so he can't talk spoilers. No, that's okay. It's kind of hard to find time to go see a movie, it turns out.
Well, speaking of lighter topic / finding time, I haven't had a lot of time because this coming Friday I'm shooting a film for 3 days. And so, which brings me to the point that maybe next week we might be on a hiatus.
Yeah.
So I don't know when we're going to get to record. I will be completely out of pocket Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and possibly Monday. But yeah, I'm shooting a film. I drove to Marshall this morning to confirm a location. And then the rest of the film is going to be CGI.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. Very cool. I'm glad that you're just jumping right into the studio way to make a movie. Yeah. Well, then, because we have a bit of a hiatus, we kind of want to throw it back to you guys. You know, we had a poll for last week's episode, and there were other options on there. I think we're going to put up another poll, and we can see what you guys want. Also, still very interested in having a guest on in the near future. Maybe we might coordinate something, if not for next episode, for an episode soon-ish. Yeah. Very soon. So, I mean, obviously, if anyone out there is listening to this and they want a guest, hit me up. I know a couple of people have contacted me before asking if they want to get on the show, and we'll try our darndest. We sure did love having our guests, Jacob and Natalie. They were great.
That was I think guests would be, or they are. I mean, we've had Jacob and Natalie. That was amazing. But I really want more. Yeah. If this is like a pretty. We're not.
Is there a sentence?
Yeah. There was. I'm not sure where it was going.
We mean. It's not like you ever have a dream?
Hey guys, when you
that you wish you could, that he would do you so much you could do anything.
You could do anything. Guests, we love them. Let's do it. We'll put up that poll when this episode comes out. Y'all go vote. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll try our darndest to talk about it.
Ooh, can I tell you a nightmare I had last night to close this one out?
Yes, let's go.
I had a nightmare that Kanye West and I think Slender Man or someone was in the basement of some house making Donda. Dead ass. I don't know.
Is this real?
It was scary, but I don't remember the details super clearly. But yeah, it was Kanye and some scary individual making Donda, and I was like, they were making weird noises down there, and I was like trying to go down there, and someone was like, stop, they're making Donda down there. And I was but I went down there, and I think I pissed off either Kanye or the scary guy, but I don't remember too much. I just remember being afraid and walking out of that with the concrete details that are making Donda down there.
Did he tell you to go find God and come back when you found God?
I wish he had given me some insightful advice or something. I mean, Slender Man being featured on Donda would be pretty sick, though. I think that's what I'm taking out of it.
I think so. Well, goodbye.
Yep.